She was leading a flood rescue mission all night when the hospital called. Your daughter is taking her last breaths. The husband's new wife committed the abuse. The police chief buried the case. But the next morning, the mother in uniform stood at their door with the military. I wasn't home that night either. My car was parked outside the hospital, and a thin layer of rain kept forming on the windshield. I kept the wipers off because it felt like if I moved anything, everything would start collapsing again. Emma was inside the ICU and outside life kept going like nothing had happened. I held my phone and opened my contacts. For a moment I thought about calling someone, but I closed it again. Because if I talked to anyone, I might lose the decision that was already forming inside me. Around 2 in the morning, a hospital security guard saw me. He walked closer and said, "Ma'am, you can't sit here all night." I looked at him and said, "I didn't come here to sit." He went quiet and walked away. At 5 a.m. the sky was light gray. The rain had stopped, but the ground was still wet. I got out of the car and entered through the back entrance of the hospital. Emma was still there. The machines were the same, but the numbers on the screen looked more stable. The nurse looked at me and only said, "She's holding." I didn't respond. I just stood beside her. Her fingers were still inside the tubes. I gently touched her hand. This time it felt warmer. Or maybe I just needed it to. I leaned in close and said, "I haven't left anything behind now." And maybe that was the first time I admitted it to myself. When I walked out, there were 3 black SUVs in the parking lot. Tinted windows. No one got out, but I knew exactly who they were. A message came to my phone. "Command is ready. Confirmation needed." I replied with only one word. "Proceed." And in that moment, it felt like something had been crossed that couldn't be undone. Within 2 hours, movement started across the city. Not loud movement. No sirens. No announcements. Just quiet arrivals and quiet exits. Police station records were frozen. Hospital CCTV servers were taken under temporary control. And an emergency audit began at the county office. I didn't go home. I went straight to Police Chief Daniels' office. He was already there, like he knew things were slipping out of his control. He looked at me and said, "Did you escalate this to the federal level?" I said, "I only requested the truth." He didn't laugh. His face tightened. "This is your husband's family matter. Not a military issue." I looked at him and my voice turned harder for the first time. When my daughter was in the ICU and someone called it drama, it wasn't a family matter then. He went silent. At that same time, Rachel was pulled out of detention. I saw her properly for the first time. No makeup. No confidence. No control. She looked at me and said, "You think you've won?" I didn't respond emotionally. I only said, "This wasn't a game." She tried to speak again, but the guards took her away. Emma's condition shifted slightly at the hospital. The doctor called it a small improvement, but those words weren't enough for me. That day I requested the full hospital administration file for the first time. When the documents arrived, everything started aligning into something clear. Night entry logs showed Rachel's name. Security footage confirmed her presence. And one more thing mattered more than everything else. Chief Daniels' approval signature on an emergency override that had no medical justification. I looked at the page and said quietly, "That's enough." The next morning, a military legal team arrived at the house. Formal. Controlled. No aggression, no softness. Just clarity. One of them said, "We need your final statement before the arrest execution phase is completed." I said, "I'm not giving a statement. I'm reviewing records." They nodded. A temporary command setup had been built outside the city. Everything was being coordinated from there. Rachel was brought back again, but the situation had completely changed. This was no longer a hospital issue or a family dispute. It had become a chain of command case. Daniels was called in too. He arrived, but his posture wasn't the same anymore. He looked at me and said, "Why did you do all this?" For the first time I gave him a direct answer. Because someone turned my daughter's bed into a negotiation point. He couldn't respond. Then came the moment where everything finalized. Internal hospital recordings were presented to public authority. Rachel's entry was confirmed. Unauthorized access was proven. And Daniel's attempt to cover it up was recorded as well. I saw everything, but I didn't react. Because for me, the evidence had already formed the day Emma's eyes stayed closed while a message appeared on my phone. 2 days later, Rachel was officially charged. Daniels was suspended and taken into federal custody. I didn't give any media interview. I didn't post anything online. I just sat in Emma's hospital room and held her hand. This time the machine's beeping was steadier. I leaned in and said, "Not everything is fixed yet. But nothing wrong can happen now." A week later, Emma was moved from ICU to a general room. She was still weak but awake. She looked at me for the first time and said softly, "Mom, you were gone." I sat beside her and said, "I wasn't gone. I was right here. I just couldn't come closer." She didn't answer. She just kept looking at me. When we came home, everything was the same. The same cup in the kitchen. The same chair where I used to sit in a hurry. But the house didn't feel the same anymore. The silence had changed. It wasn't heavy anymore. It was settled. I still take calls. Flood operations still happen. People still get trapped. But now when my phone rings, I pause for a second. And then I choose. Because I'm not just a rescue lead anymore. I'm the woman who once made it too late, and made sure it never happened again. If this story moved you, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more powerful real-life inspired stories like this. Your support truly helps the channel grow and brings more emotional stories your way. Thank you for watching and being part of this journey. It really means a lot.